I think it's probably the best tower in the area.
Like in all of Ring 1, or just in the game?
Yeah, honestly, in the game, it was a very very interesting tower.
I think it's a very good tower. It's like, if I could marry it, I would. No, just okay. Just if, like, in general, it's a pretty good tower. I think that some of the jumps are pretty sketchy, but like overall, it's okay.
So when I first played it, I thought it was pretty good, but over time, it kind of just like stuck in my head as good. Mm-hmm. So I just kept liking it because it is a good tower.
Basically, when it first came out, I was really happy to see it just to try and play it myself. But like, when I started to actually try and grind it, it was getting worse and worse until I actually beat it. Mm-hmm. My opinions have changed since then, but I still think ToSip overall is pretty cool.
It is time. I talked about so many towers and events throughout this whole series. Look how far we've made it. After so much time and effort, it's time I cover what is perhaps the most infamous tower in all of ZToA. The most well known by others. The one that went through so much from the day it was finished to the present. This is going to be a long episode, so grab a snack, get a drink, and buckle up. We are going to be taking a trip through memory lane. This is the history of ToSip, Tower of Senseless Internal Pain. Obviously, to start off the episode, I will introduce the tower to those who don't know. Tower of Senseless Eternal Pain is a mid-extreme tower located in Ring 1. To access it, you need to get to the roof of the lobby and do some invisible parkour. The old method was going through a 2-stud gap in the insane tower portal room area. The tower is pierced, so that meant there were 0 client-sided objects used. Instead, the tower is nothing but raw difficulty and daunting emptiness. One fail, and you're falling far down. This does put the difficulty of the tower in question, given the punishing nature of it, along with the last few floors being nightmares. However, most of the jumps in ToSip are repeated a lot, so it gets slightly consistent. Some would say high extreme, while others would say bottom terrifying. People who can get past the obstacles consistently would probably say low extreme.
Probably like a mid-extreme, low mid-extreme, something around there.
Well, that depends, because when I beat it, it did feel extreme for its time, but now, I think it might stay that way.
Just stay as mid-extreme?
Yeah.
I did remember in the freaking personal difficulties channel in the ZToA server, you did vote like terrifying because of like the punishing nature of the tower and also like the bunch of the inconsistent jumps. Do you like retract like that opinion and you pretty much like changed?
Yeah, I retract that.
I'm not very good at the game, so it's pretty hard to tell.
It says mid-extreme on the difficulty chart. Do you think it's good enough to stay like that, or do you think it should be higher?
I feel like it's fine as extreme.
It says mid-extreme right now.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Maybe like a bit lower, like maybe like a low mid extreme, but I think the difficulty placement is fine for what it is.
So now the question was, what made this tower so special compared to the other ZToA towers? Well, one might say the gameplay just stands out from the rest. Others might say it was a tower that was involved in the most events. Whatever the case, it's always going to be partially affected by how much goods there are compared to the amount of bads.
Goods and bads. There's a couple sections that have some jumps. Like I remember there's this one thing on it's the beginning of some inside. It's got some really hard long jump to a part, and I think there's just like there's a couple inconsistencies, but really it's no big deal. Aside from that, I don't see any real flaws in the tower for what it's supposed to be. The goods, a lot of it. The gameplay feels really nice to do. It flows well. There's some interesting mechanics like the stuff on what's the like light blue floor, whatever.
4-9?
It starts, yeah, 4-9.
With the
where it
Kekai
has-
Falls parts.
Exactly, yeah. That's a pretty interesting mechanic. I thought that was cool. I thought it needed something like that playing through the tower, and then you got there, so I guess something like that could have been used earlier in the tower as well to make it a bit better, but overall,
Yeah, that's true.
I think it has some good moments like that, and I think that makes the tower interesting. And so yeah, good gameplay, flows well.
So the gameplay is fun, and the bad side is it's pretty punishing, and the final floor is a bit long, but it's still fun.
Like pros and cons.
Yeah.
Like probably like the intensity that the tower like has by the end is like pretty good considering it's an extreme, and most extremes nowadays are like not too intense by the end.
Yeah.
And then bad. I mean, some of the jumps are like not extreme, and like those not extreme jumps are on the later floors, which is pretty annoying. But overall,
So,
it's
inconsistency.
fine. Yeah.
From what I can tell, the first half is consistent, which I like. Second half, not really. It just kind of spikes in difficulty, like it's said.
Yeah,
That's just really my main gripe with it.
just the difficulties, inconsistency.
Mm-hmm.
That being said, let's go over the development process of the tower and see what is there to learn. It was August 30th, 2020. Z created the ZToA art place after thinking about it for a while, along with the making of Toba. From what I could speculate, I must have been excited about the game and wanted to make a tower for it. Tower of Just Heart gameplay was pretty much dead, so I had all the time in the world to make a new tower. I volunteered to make an SC tower for Ring 1. There was no confirmed towers list back then, so I pretty much just chose a difficulty and started working on it. I decided to make a Purist. I felt like the tower should have a lot of effort in it if it's going to be my first tower in the game, possibly related to first impressions. I wanted this to be a big challenge to players, something that would require immense skill and concentration. And what followed was the development of the most iconic tower in the game.
I was excited because if it passed, that means it's another tower in the game, and I was just trying to like get more towers since it was just starting out.
Yeah, so you were pretty much like really hoping it to be done and also good.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I was really interested. I didn't want to really play it until it came out because I wanted to get my first kind of thoughts when the whole tower was done and I could play through the whole thing. But I was really interested by the progress. Of course, it doesn't really show you exactly how fun it's gonna be or how good it's gonna be, but it does give you an idea of what's being built, and so it was interesting to see, and I was excited for the release.
Honestly, I was hoping for it to get finished, and when it did, I was super happy. I just wanted to play, just wanted to see how it would go, and yeah, that's all I got to say for that.
The tower name, Senseless Eternal Pain is kind of a confusing and may seem nonsensical at first, and at first glance it's understandable why. Back when I started the tower, I wanted to come up with a creative tower name that people would remember. The word senseless was supposed to imply that the tower used no kill bricks, so you wouldn't feel the pain from the outside, but rather the inside, hence internal pain. However, it's not the tower name that made it stand out, but the tower acronym. It just so happens that the tower acronym was TOSIP, so it spawned a plethora of jokes about drinking and sipping, with the badge image even being a cup as a reference. The tower colors are a bit random, and they're all default colors from the Roblox Studio color palette. However, another old tower predating TOSIP, Tower of Just Your Average Gameplay, has the same colors from Force 5 through 10, which suggests the theory that the colors were taken from that tower and put into TOSIP. However, it might be more believable to say that I was just very fond of the colors and used it often. The song choices were mostly reused in other ZToA towers apart from 2 floors. Building the tower, I was actually going to make it insane difficulty. However, due to the difficulty consistency being more close to extreme, by the time I got to floor 6, I was like, you know what, I'm gonna make this tower extreme instead. It's why you see a sign stating it's gonna start ramping up the difficulty a bit. However, I never changed the first half of the tower when I made the difficulty change, so that's why the entire tower feels inconsistent. It's also important to note that this was during the era where I was very fond of slight difficulty spikes at the last few floors. It's one of the main reasons why floor 8 is so difficult. I was running out of ideas by the time I started floor 10, but I noticed how short the tower was, so I decided to make floor 10 ridiculously lengthy. An outside section that goes around the whole frame, 4 sides, and even a roof. Although the roof was pretty lazy, after 1 month, the tower was completed. I've always said that the tower was finished on September 30th, 2020, but looking through version histories, I could confirm that it was actually the 27th of September. I'm most likely sure that it was reviewed on the 30th, however. We do not know that, considering the hacking of the server causing the messages to be deleted. So, that's all with this tower, right? Surely the development of the tower was the only interesting about it, no? It's just some random purist extreme tower. Well, no. The events following up after TOSIP was finished is what made it so memorable as a tower. Firstly, when people played through the tower, the majority of them loved it. They found it fun and consistent with little flaws. They actually really enjoyed it.
Well, this was when everyone was trying to beat it, so I was kind of rushing through it. I'd already played it, I believe, beforehand in practice.
Yeah, so your opinion didn't really change.
Yeah, not much. I thought it was good the whole time. Never really hated it at all.
It's kind of hard to tell because it's been like 2 years.
Yeah, so like just as long as you can like remember like just overall. I don't know if you can.
I think I enjoyed it for what it had.
It was okay. I remember falling a lot to 9 and 10. I have a bunch of clips from that, but it was like a pretty fun experience playing through it.
When I first played through it, like full no clip run,
Yeah.
I enjoyed the whole thing. Like overall, it was really fun.
Next, when Z reviewed the tower, it received a 28 out of 30 with a gameplay star and a creativity star. For a purist tower, getting a creativity star seemed basically impossible. This tower was basically the perfect purist tower according to some. Of course, there were some players who believed TOSIP wasn't all that good, and that grinding it was unfun due to experience alone.
Yeah, I think it does. Because I like classic towers a lot, and sometimes people are like, oh, this has to be modern to be good.
Hey, yeah, that's true. So you're just like, no, classic towers could still be good.
Yeah.
I don't really necessarily think so. It could be better, but seeing as there's different standards from today,
Yeah.
I think that it just doesn't live up.
If we're talking ZToA standards, 150% yes. Obviously, I mean, HecateZoe standards are mainly based around design and
Yeah.
whatnot, so I don't think it really holds up to those, but yeah, no, I still think it's a really fun tower. That's what I look for in towers, and yeah, I think it holds up and will do to this day.
Considering like how the towers have gone from like since then in the game, I think it still lives up pretty well.
I mean, I know you haven't beaten the tower, but if you like still tried it legit, would you still like it?
Probably. I'm not the kind of person to really hate on the tower just because I failed one jump. I'm more of a person to hate it if I get far and failed it.
Yeah. So it's more of like experience.
Yeah.
Probably. I mean, considering I had a pretty good experience with it for the first time, I would say it would probably be like around the same for the second time.
There's a chance, because if I do get far quite frequently and I just fall all the way back to the beginning, I might not enjoy it as much. But just having the experience again, it'll feel nostalgic, so that's
Yeah,
what
I could see that.
probably makes me enjoy it.
I could see that, yeah.
Yes and no. When I've played a tower enough, I start to get a little bored of it, but I still think I could go back and replay it and still have a good time. I just can't do it like often because I've already done it quite
Yeah,
a few
that's
times.
fair enough.
But yeah, every time I've played it, I thought it was really good. I always enjoyed it. I never really disliked it. So it has some good replayability there.
The positive feedback from Tosip really astonished me. I genuinely felt really proud of it, so much that I decided to look back at the tower and decided to revamp it. On February 9th, 2021, less than 2 weeks after the release of the game, Tosip received an update. This included more design on the roof, slight difficulty balancing, a different font to all the signs, and different song selections. This update made the tower much better than previously. Something to note was that the review of old Tosip was rushed and pretty lackluster. The review on the new version was better and also provided a better score, but it got rid of the creativity star. Z was a bit unhappy with Tosip losing its creativity star, so to compensate, he made a gravestone on the lobby island which commemorated Tosip's creativity star. Something to not commemorate, however, was the laziest portal room and win room ever seen. I did forget about this while typing out the script, but basically, in the old Tosip place, if you no-clipped out of the tower, you would see 2 boxes. The light blue box was the portal room, and the magenta one was the win room. Both of them were extremely bland and clearly, and showed no experience to custom portal and win rooms. They were really ugly, and Z really wanted me to change them. I told him I didn't really want to, because I had no ideas on how to make them better. So what Z decided to do with the horrendous creations was to delete them and make a text channel in the Discord server. The purpose was to have someone from the community make a win room for Tosip. Z had already decided to make the portal room. Only one person submitted a win room, HecateZoe. Therefore, that got accepted as the new win room for Tosip. Unfortunately, there's no correct date as to when the win room was implemented. During research, Zoe had said the model was made in October 10th, 2020, so we can at least assume it was made somewhere in early October 2020. Unfortunately, we do not know yet. There's a saying from my friend that sequels tend to be worse than their predecessors sometimes. There's only a handful of exceptions, and unfortunately, 2-Cup was not a part of those exceptions. 2-Cup was basically supposed to be Tosip's sequel, having the tower accident be similar to the action of drinking, and the fact that floor 1 is the same color as floor 10 of Tosip. I worked on this tower 2 days after the Tosip update. For 2.5 months, I'd post screenshots of the tower and keep building. However, there was one big mistake that caused the whole tower to lose its status as a good tower. The difficulty was extremely inconsistent. It was aiming to be terrifying, but the jumps were so hard and poorly playtested that some people are willing to say it's near catastrophic difficulty. Now, how do you feel about 2 Cup, the ToSip sequel? How do you feel about it?
It's ToSip, but if it was a little bit too hard. I don't know. I feel like when towers become that hard, it just kind of makes them less enjoyable to play through.
Yeah, I see what you mean.
It's not a horrible tower at all, but I still prefer ToSip by quite a bit. So that's my overall opinion on ToCup.
Oh, I didn't feel like I enjoyed ToCup too much. I mean, it's a pretty good tower, but from my personal experience, I just didn't enjoy it. I thought it was very hard out of my skill set.
Yeah, that is true. You think ToCup is like kind of worse than ToSip in a way?
Yes.
It's kind of hard to tell because I didn't play it as much. I think I played it once.
Yeah. Well, was it like overall bad or average?
It was good. It was just really difficult for me.
Yeah, it was a bit hard for terrifying. I mean, people said it was kind of.
Probably is.
Oh, that tower.
If you played it, right?
I mean, yeah, I've played it. The gameplay is questionable, but I mean, it's a good sequel, I guess. But like.
But you prefer ToSip?
I would say ToSip. Yeah, I would say ToSip is way better.
The fact that the tower was also slightly rushed at some floors made it pretty low quality in general, and 2 Cup exists as just another sequel that became worse than its prequel. This won't be the last of 2 Cup, however. We'll get into that later. It's May 16th, 2021. Towers like Elaborate Solutions and Painful Remembrance were out, along with a few other towers for Dimension 1. My creating skills were sort of improving and I've been trying to make some better quality towers, although ToSip was still in people's minds when it comes to quality.
I'd say ToSip is pretty different because like ToSip was like your one of your most like known rap spam towers.
Yeah.
And compared to the others, the gameplay is way more varied on the others than it is in ToSip. Yeah.
Okay, so you say they're like pretty much like better overall.
Yeah.
Elaborate Solutions is probably my favorite tower by you, and that's just because it's not because of the gameplay. It's not because of the gameplay. It's mainly because of the creativity, because a lot of times I see towers just kind of the same thing, and Elaborate Solutions was really a nice break from that. It's very interesting. It has a bunch of different unique mechanics, so I would say that's the one that holds up the best to ToSip in my opinion.
I feel like all your newer towers, some of them aren't as good, but some of them are. It's kind of like a mix. Because you took your time on that, and some of them you rush, which aren't really the good ones.
Yeah.
Some of the ones you rush, like ZToA, I like that one. That one's pretty good.
So, some of those towers I feel like are a lot better than ToSip, like TOES, Elaborate Solutions. But there are some that I can see just not as good as ToSip. I can't recall which ones because it's been a long time since I've actually played the towers. Yeah. But from what I can tell, there are like one or two that I don't think that are good as ToSip.
I'm gonna try to demo it right now. What about like problematic impediments? I think I remember you playing through that, but it's insane towers like awful. I think that might be like one of those towers you might be thinking of. I was just relaxing until I got a DM from Z. He asked me for the model of 2 Cup. I was confused because it hasn't been reviewed yet, but I did it anyway since I was curious to see what would happen. An hour goes by and Z sends a Citadel link called Citadel of Merciless Unforgiving Givings, or COMUG for short. This is basically a recap from the 9th episode of HecateZoe. To summarize for those who haven't heard, nobody wanted to try the Citadel because it was Tosip and Tuka put together into a 20-floor monster. Zoe was like, I'll actually just play this as a joke. Surprisingly, she got to 8 pretty fast. Her progress was steadily increasing more and more. She got to 9, then 10, then to the 4 sides, then to the roof. She did the final jump and all was fine at first until she said, "Easy tower," out of excitement. Kyle left the GC out of anger and Koda was steaming. He started grilling Zoe about incorrect difficulty opinions and to not be the typical EO everyone hates. It went back and forth between Zoe and Koda, with witnesses just watching the whole thing. Unlike HecateZoe number 9, we have the people involved in the argument to tell us their side of the story. It was on episode 9 about Komug and how you beat Tosip legit in that place. Called it pretty much an easy tower, and that caused some pretty much like a split argument between you and Coded, along with Kyle leaving the GC during that. What was your like mindset during that whole thing? Like during while it was happening?
Okay, I got really carried away. Okay, so the entire time I kind of just treated it as a joke, because that's what I thought it was. But obviously when people started getting heated, I felt like bad. I don't know. I also thought it was a bit stupid, but I understood later, thinking back on it, like why I was a bit annoying to them.
Yeah, it was pretty dumb, to be honest.
Obviously, by what I said earlier, I don't actually think it's an easy tower. It is very hard. I just said that I was excited to get past it, and I was treating it as a joke. So, as unfunny as it was, and I look back on it not too fondly, you know, I mean,
yeah,
it happened. I still apologize to the people who were upset about me saying that, but again, it was a joke.
Yeah, it was a good thing you apologized.
Moving on from it, I feel like everyone's moved on from that by now.
Yeah.
Or at least hopefully. And yeah.
I think like I was okay with Zoe beating it, but with the fact that she called it easy, it kind of just threw me off, and it just kind of ruined my attitude with that. Like I went through Tosip all legit. I haven't beaten Tokup, but I didn't enjoy it. But like just seeing an extreme and terrifying combined together and just being called easy just does not sit right with me, and I just kind of raged over that fact.
I barely remember it because all I remember of it is when I like went to sleep when Zoe went like to the second half.
Yeah.
So I woke up with all those messages and it was just really confusing, I guess.
Yeah, that is true. It was a pretty dumb argument.
I think that the argument was pretty stupid that happened in the first place, because like people have their own rights to opinion, and like it was just a petty argument overall. That could have been
your mic cut out.
avoided. No, that was it.
Oh, that's it?
It was just a petty argument that could have been avoided, yeah.
Since then, people have moved on from that event, and that controversy pretty much made me think that Tosip was more special than I had originally thought. If it could cause something like this, I started thinking it was more impactful than originally. From gaining slight traction, to people saying it's their favorite tower in the game, to others saying it still retains good quality as a classic tower, to sparking a huge controversy, I think I have my reasons to say Tosip is by far the tower that I care about the most. It's my first tower, but it's also one of my best. Yes, it's not perfect, and there might need to be some slight changes for it to be better, but I don't know. Something about leaving the tower unchanged for old time's sakes is interesting and nostalgic, at least to me.
I don't think it would be good, but also it can be. It's kind of I'm kind of neutral on that. If the tower started out as that, then I think I would have been much more supportive of that. But because it's kind of like an iconic tower the way it is, without that kind of over the top design and like ZToA standards and all that, I think the way that it's built with the purism and whatnot, and not really having client objects, it's meant to be a classic tower.
Yeah,
it's
just
meant
a
to be a
standard
classic
extreme tower.
Yeah, I don't think it needs to be modern. I think that would honestly kind of affect it in the wrong way, because it wouldn't go so well as a modern tower. I think it passes really, really well as a classic tower, and that's the way I think it should stay.
That is a good answer. Yeah, I agree.
I think gameplay does matter over design, so I feel like a change would be better, but I don't think necessarily that design would really need to change, because I feel like just if you have an enjoyable tower, doesn't matter if the design's good or not, that's just what matters the most.
I think that it's fine how it is, and if there were to be a revamp, I would want it to be in a separate tower, because like the tower itself is pretty fun to play still, and the legacy and history it has is pretty cool.
Well, you already revamped it once, which that revamp made it better.
Yeah.
So I don't know about a second revamp. It's like, some ZToA revamped, that game?
Yeah.
Some of the towers in there aren't very good, even as a revamp, so it could end up being like that.
Alright, so you think it's better if it's just unchanged in its classic state?
Yeah.
That is all. ToSIP remains in Ring 1 of ZToA R. It still remains as a daunting tower to do for an extreme. There's still a couple of small fun facts, like when the model was made for new ToSIP, the text on all the signs were gone, and that had to be fixed. Or when Z got warned 3 times because of an image he tried to make as ToSIP's badge image. Other than that though, that's all the interesting things about ToSIP. No other tower has a history quite like this one. Big thank you to Z, Zoe, Veg, and Kyle for participating in the video. It means a lot to me. With that, History of Dimension 1 towers are gonna be on their way. I know Tower Silent Panic is something I haven't covered yet, but we'll get there. Just going to say, this has been the history of Tower of Senseless Eternal Pain, and thank you for tuning in for the premiere. Goodbye.